Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the show tonight. Got a few different things I wanted to talk about. Like the title of the show says, some of those more higher level prepping problems that we run into. It's easy for, to prepare for these short-term type situations. And a lot of times what you hear about on websites and YouTube videos and everything is do these, stay away from these 10 prepper mistakes or something like that. And usually it's the basic stuff that a lot of us that have been doing this for a while haven't, it really doesn't concern us that much. We've been through those a little bit. So this article I thought was pretty interesting because it talks about, and I'm going to put my 2 cents in as well. It talks about the longer term type situations, the things that a lot of us take for granted a little bit. And also, as preppers, we've been doing this for a while, for a number of years or so. We sort of maybe overestimate our preparedness levels, our abilities, all of those different things. So I wanted to talk about that as well. In the chat, what's up, Brandon and Tony? I'll try to get these comments if I can get to them. But before I get into a lot of that stuff that I'm going to talk about today, I wanted to go over a couple things that I'm doing here at Survivalist Prepper, as well as the Bug Out location, which is the membership website. And on that, I'm putting together the Bug Out location 3.0. And those of you that have been around for a while know that this started out as the Survivalist Prepper Academy, where I put together a bunch of different courses for beginning preppers. And then I changed it to the Bug Out location, and that was the second version. And basically I moved a lot of the stuff over there, organized it a little bit better, and added a few things. But this version, I'm just redoing it from the ground up. I've got this little chart here. I'll put it, it's hard to see this, but this is my little mind map that I'm using to sort of plan out the courses that I'm going to do over there. I'm nowhere near done with this. I've got security, first aid, sanitation. These are all just the ideas I have in my head, but I'm going to start this out. Let me see if I can put it this way. It might make a little bit more sense. Oh, no, that's a lot bigger. But what I'm going to do is, you can see there's going to be a lot of stuff in here. But what I'm going to do with this is, instead of having the courses that, like the prepping 101, the basic prepping, I'm still going to have stuff like that as well. And then, like a navigation course I have over there, or a bug out course that I've had over there and still haven't finished. What I'm going to do is, rather than doing those individual courses, I want this to involve everyone in preparedness. So I'm going to do it in tiers, basically. What I'm going to do is start out with the real basic stuff, and then I'm going to branch off, sort of like you see in this map right here. I'm going to branch off into the areas that get more advanced than the beginning stuff. So the new Bug Out location is going to have something for everyone eventually. And once I get past the basic cooking options, I'm just using that as an example because it's right here. But once I get past that, then we'll go into, that really advanced stuff, that high level stuff for people that have, not the beginner, not the intermediate, but that person that's really trying to hone in their preparedness skills. And I'm not an expert at a lot of this stuff by any means, but what I'll try to do, let's say, a gasifier is something that comes to mind right now. If that is something that you're interested in, I will find somebody that really does know their stuff about gasifiers and put a course together and do things like that. So what I want to do is just make this something that is great for everyone that is interested in preparedness, not just that beginning prepper. Let me see here. I'm reading my notes here, but I want to put the course structure together like that. Along with all of the courses, We're going to have contests. I'm going to start doing contests like I used to do over there. Really make it fun, interactive, and just something that people actually want to go to more than just to get a prepping course. I'll have articles over there. I'm going to add resources over there for all levels of preparedness. We'll be doing webinars, live streams, things like that. And with that, one thing that I really want to do, and a lot of you know, I've tried to do the whole locals thing, and it is crap. Locals just kind of sucks. It doesn't allow me, the existing bug out location members, it doesn't allow me to bring them in there so they can chat and interact and do a lot of things. So it's really boring over there. So if you are a supporter over there, I super appreciate it, but you might as well cancel that because I've got something new here that I wanted to show everyone. And this is something that I'm actually going to have to pay for, but it's just so cool. And it does a lot of the things that I was hoping that locals would do, that I'm going to do this right here. And this is a Mighty Networks. It's Mighty Networks that I have to pay for, but this is strictly a group for survivalist prepper or the bug out location members. And what I can do, I've got a couple people that I'm going to have test this out and make sure all the kinks are ironed out. But it's really cool because you can go through here and you can actually post things. There's polls like this one right here, all sorts of different things. You can chat just sort of like you do on Facebook and everything else. Over here on the side, you've got the different level tiers. The very basic one is the free version that people can join in just to kind of kick the tires and see how it's going. And then I've got the supporters tier, which is $2 a month, where this is where a lot of the action will be happening, as well as the bug allocation. But this one, you've got this. There's nothing in there yet because I'm still playing around with it. You can check the different tabs right here on this side. It's got your feed. It's also got a feed up here, which is just a compilation of every group that you've joined. But down here, like say the bug out location, this is going to be where I will post updates about different things I'm doing at the website. This is where if you guys have ideas about what you want to see on the website, I will put that stuff here. Again, it's got the chat tab. It's got the events if I'm doing live videos or anything like that. It's got the different content that's in here. So you can look here and see that I put this little chart up here. Again, just goofing around with some stuff. But it's going to be a really cool group. As soon as this starts to get active and people get in there and start doing, kind of chatting to each other, talking back and forth, asking questions. I mean, that's what made the first bug out location so awesome, was that people would interact, and it wasn't just me telling people how to do this or that. I've got people of so many different levels of preparedness that there's just really good advice from everywhere. And that's what I wanted locals to be. But it just never turned into that because I couldn't let the people in that I wanted to let in until I reached 50, I forget what they call it, 50 paying members, basically. With this, I'm going to be able to let all the bug out location members in. All the existing members, I will add them to the group, and you guys can go in there, start goofing around, start letting me know, hey, this would be better, that would be better. One thing I am going to do on here as well, right now I'm just starting this out, but in these little groups like the prepper chat, the community, I'm also going to have different prepper categories like food storage, water storage, alternative energy, sort of like a forum, but just a much more convenient and easy way to get things done. So it's gonna be pretty cool. I will let everyone know when I have this up and running. It may be a little bit, but I'm gonna get a few people in there to beta test, basically be my guinea pigs. I've asked Brandon and Mark and a couple people. I will probably in the next few days, any existing members of the bug out location, I will send you all an invite and let you get in there and kind of toy around with things and let me know what you want me to add and what not to add or whatever you want. Just let me know. Hey, I wish I could do this, or can I do this, or can I do that? And then once we're ready, I'll roll it out to the public. But it's going to be a fantastic group. The basic member, like I said, you can join for free. There's not going to be much going on in there in that part of it, but you will get some updates and information about what I'm doing. The supporter level, which is $2, is going to be $2 a month, is where a lot of the stuff, all the contests we do, and the bug out location members as well. But it's just going to be a fantastic group. This is quite a bit of money. So we're going to try this out for a year. And if it works and it grows and it turns into something, then I will continue that next year. If it falls on its face, we'll probably know before that year's even up, but I don't see that happening because it's just a great little group right there. Or it's going to be a great little group right there. Light Raider SC said, Mighty is a great server. One of your groups uses it. That's cool. Yeah, I have noticed. I haven't dug around too much yet, but I have noticed there are a couple groups in there. So pretty cool. I tried, Discord, and like I said, local sucks. Discord just really confusing to me. Maybe that's my old brain or whatever, but it doesn't work out for me. So this, I think, is going to be fantastic. And the fact that I can bring all the bug out location members in is something that I've really wanted to do. And those of you listening that are bug out location members, you're going to be happy about that as well. I know Robert and Cassandra are going to be happy about that. So at any rate, that's it with that. Like I said, I will have more updates as this gets going. The new bug out location may take me a while to get that up and rolling, but I will have updates and let everyone know about that. I've got to get the videos. Like I said, I'm starting from the ground up. So I'm going to get the videos and all that put together, and not going to open the doors until I have most of the beginning stuff. And then, like I said, it's going to be a work in progress for years. Even when I think there's nothing else that I can add, I'll probably figure out something else. Like I said, the gasifiers, that is probably years down the line before I even touch something like that. But once I have all the basic food storage covered, once I have all the basic food storage techniques and cooking and things like that, then that's where you get to those really high level things. Ham radio can get pretty deep as well. So it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be something that's better than just the preparedness courses. Also over there, bug out location members get wholesale prices on long-term food as well. Anything over at the shtfshop.com. So that'll be pretty cool also. So what I want to talk about today is sort of this maintaining your preparedness level, not overreacting. Like I said, I found this article that I wanted to talk about today, and it talks about things that at a higher level of preparedness, some of the things that we sort of take for granted, that we think maybe we're a little bit more prepared than we actually are for things. So I wanted to go through a few of these topics today and just get your guys' thoughts, as well as if there's anything else that you can think of that people that have been preparing for a while sort of fall into a trap, and two, there's a lot of things that we talk about that are good for these general small scale sort of preparedness level or disaster events. But when you're talking about something that could be a little bit more long term, that's a little bit tougher, because we may think hey, I'm prepared for this. I'm prepared to withstand things for 6 months or so. But are you really? And I think this sort of, at the very least, maybe opens your eyes a little bit about some of that stuff. Let me see. I've got a couple comments before I put this on. Oops. If I can figure this stuff out. A former guest of yours is simulcasting. Oh, who's that? Is that local prepper? Maybe I have to figure out a different day. I don't want to have any competition and things like that. But if you can, leave it in the chat. Who else is doing it tonight? But at any rate, let's go over the first point on their article right here. And what they talk about is I'll just read this first paragraph right here. Prepper mistakes during prepping and preparedness. We all make mistakes along the way. I certainly have, and I still make mistakes. The best we can do is try to learn from them. So I thought I would list some prepping mistakes to avoid during the journey towards becoming better prepared. Now, the first one he talks about, and this is one I think that it's a really good one, because I think this is one that a whole lot of us sort of, I don't know why, tend to put on the back burner. Maybe it's not as exciting, but it's storing enough water. This says right here, we take for granted that a constant availability of water, because it drips out of the faucet every day. You just turn on the tap and it's there to go. However, water is ridiculously essential for survival. One of the most important things that we have, or that we need to have. He also talks about in here, I'm not going to read all of this, but he talks about how some of us, there's some of us that have wells. There's some of us that live near lakes and streams and have that water source available, which is great. But the vast majority of us don't have that available. And I think that water storage is one of those things that we sort of, I don't know if we willingly put it on the back burner or there's other things that we can pay attention to, but it is something that it doesn't get the credit that it really deserves. Because, like, take ammo. In this article, I'll talk about this in a bit too, but in this article, one of the commenters was talking about having enough ammo and stuff. As preppers, we think about that, and we will spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on rounds and rounds and rounds of ammunition, right? For something that may or may not, and I'm not saying it's not important, but it's something that may or may not come in handy in a bunch of different disaster situations. But the one constant is water. Regardless of what the disaster scenario is, water and food are going to be the most important ones when it comes to surviving anything big, small, whatever. I mean, the ammunition, the things like that, even communications, and all of those are sort of disaster dependent, whereas water is just all encompassing. Charlie here said, I think I could survive 28 days. After that, it would be trouble. Yeah, and I think that's just one of those things we got to be honest with ourselves about. I probably, there are so many different variables in this. It's really hard to say one way or the other. How long, it's sort of that doomsday prepper thing, right? I'm preparing for this, or I'm preparing for that. And then the doomsday preppers at the end of it, the practical preppers or whatever, they gave them a score. You can survive this long. There's just too many variables to say you can survive this long or that long with all this stuff. But we do need to be honest with ourselves about this stuff. But water, I think, is one of those, it does get sort of overlooked. And I think it's because, let me put it on this screen here. I think it is because, one, it's a little bit tough when say you're in a suburban area. You don't want to have the house with, the houses that are all put together nice and neat. The neighbor's basically staring into your bathroom window as you're taking a dump. But you don't want to have big storage tanks of water out there. I mean, it's just really tough to do. Or you don't want to have your whole basement filled with gallons and gallons of water. But if you're really serious about being prepared for those longer terms type situations, that is one of those things that really has to get figured out and not overlooked. Here, you guys all know my story with the well pump, right? It's not quite yet figured out to where if the grid goes down, how am I going to get that water? Because my well is 200 feet down. I'm working on some sort of solar setup where I can actually put a transfer switch in on my breaker and get that all figured out. Maybe possibly even like a Generac, a big generator or something that works. That is high on my priorities of things to do because water is so important. But there are other things you can do as well. And sometimes we are restricted, especially if you live in an apartment or something like that. It's going to be pretty tough to do. But in situations like that, I think you need to figure out what your options are for those longer term situations. So Tony said in the chat, reloading is the way to go. Yeah, I've had some bad luck with that, but that's probably because it wasn't done right. Not me doing it myself. I've never done it myself, but firing this can I've got behind me back here. I've talked about this before. This ammo can right here is full of 40 caliber reloads, and about 80% of them work. 80% of them, 20% of them will misfire on me. So at any rate, back to this, not enough water. I think water is one of those things we sort of overlook, and especially the longer we do this, The more that we've got 15 million different things on our plate, this is one of those that sort of gets put on the back burner. So the next one they've got here is, and this is a pretty good one too, is not thinking about the reality of surviving without the power grid, longer than just short-term type situations. Again, it says right here, again, the road towards a higher level of preparedness, many potential and significant impacts on of a non-functioning power grid. Short-term is easy. That's something that we've all probably got figured out. We can last a week or two without the power grid. But long-term, that's where things become more difficult. And I think that's where things start to sort of pile up, right? The problems get a little bit bigger. The trash maybe starts piling up. The things start breaking down. The batteries get used more. I mean, just so maybe there's even the vandalism, the theft, the crime, all of those things happen. So preparing for that longer term type stuff could be, more difficult, I think, than we sort of imagine. At the same time, though, I think, and I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on this too. The same time, I think it's sort of that shock to the system, right? Even like bugging out, something like that, where maybe we're not used to walking 10 miles a day. There's going to be a shock to your system when you start doing it, but over time, you're going to get more accustomed to it. And I think the same thing goes with a longer term type power grid failure, grid down type situation. You're going to get used to how life works now, that how everything is just completely different. So I think there is, yes, we need to be sort of realistic about what that is going to mean. And that is, we tend to think that the things that we're going to do in something that lasts a week or two, maybe a week or two into something, how we react in a situation like that is going to be the same way we are doing things, say 6 months into some sort of disaster. And it's going to be two totally different things. Along with that as well, if you're thinking about something that's just a few weeks, there's sort of light at the end of that tunnel, right? Whereas a 6 month sort of disaster, that whole time period, you're going to be clueless. A lot of people are going to be clueless. The government's already clueless, but they are. It's just going to be unknown, plus the unknowns of what caused it in the first place, and how are things like that going to escalate. So it's definitely one of those that we sort of underestimate we overestimate our abilities. Tony said in the chat real quick, let me pull this up if I can. He said water, he's talking about water here, going back to the water. Water best stored in 55-gallon food-grade barrels placed on boards with a certain amount of baking soda covered with black plastic. Yeah, see, that's kind of the stuff that I want to include into the bug out location as well. Those types of tips, the sort of, not upper level type tips, but those next level type things. Because what you get with the beginning stuff is store it in 55-gallon drums, put a little bit of bleach in there, whatever, and blah, 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 that's it, right? But that is some of that higher level stuff that I think is really, that really good information for people that have been doing this for a little while and may not know some things like that. So Charlie said better practice before it happens. Yeah. But the power grid is definitely one of those that I think even, not so much for us that have been doing this for a while, although we do sort of get complacent about some of this stuff. But the people that are at the very beginning of preparedness, and not because they can't, it's mostly because you got to start somewhere, right? You've got to you got to take the first step before you can take the fourth step. If you go all the way to the fourth step, you're missing a whole lot out over here. So you sort of got to build to that level of preparing for those longer term type situations. But the beginning prepper, it's really tough for us as preppers that have been doing this for a while. It can be one of those things where we sort of just overestimate things and we think about, I've got this or I've got that, or just give ourselves too much credit. Like, hey, I'll be able to figure it out. I do that a lot. I tend to be that type of person that will figure something out, that I'll figure out a way to get through whatever the situation is, regardless of how tough it is or other people. And who knows? I mean, it depends on what your personality type is. Other people will just throw their hands up and give up. I am not that type of person. I will go too far with things sometimes, and too much into the weeds with things. So I think, again, and this could be me giving myself way too much damn credit, but I think I'd be more adaptable than a lot of people would. And I think a lot of preppers are that way. I think our nature, our attitudes about things tend to lend to that sort of mentality. Is just, you got to get through it. Realizing that it's going to suck, it's going to be bad, but getting through that nonetheless is what our stated goal is. So at any rate, the power outage is one of those things as well. A longer term grid down style event. In here, it's like he's talking to me right here. Got a well pump? No. Do you have alternative energy sources? What about EMP protection? Another one, yeah. How are you going to heat your castle during the winter? That is one of those, because we don't get to decide when a disaster is going to strike. So non-electric appliances, alternatives for those that may consider necessities. On that a little bit as well, you think about the propane. I've got a lot of firewood. I got a lot of trees out here, but how long is that going to last? Because there's a lot of people out here that are going to be using the trees as well. Plus, a lot of them are still growing and aren't seasoned or anything. So that's going to be kind of a pain. And if you've got propane, if you're using fuel sources like that, how much propane do you actually have? We've got a couple of extra, the little tanks. I can't remember how many pounds those are, but we've got one that we use on a regular basis. Once that's full, once that's empty, we sort of rotate through them. So I've got enough for, I honestly don't know how long that would be cooking with that. If I had to cook with it 2 times a day, how long would one of those last? My guess is probably a week. And I don't know, maybe one of you in the chat kind of has a good idea about how long one of those little propane tanks would last. But my guess is probably about a week, maybe 2 weeks. So for what I have, we've got basically a month and a half of fuel that I can use for that. Now, granted, that can be supplemented with firewood. That can be, if it's in the middle of winter, I'm going to be heating the house with the wood stove anyway. So the cast iron oven, it's things like that you got to think about when it comes to those longer term type situations. The shorter term ones is kind of fun thinking about it and talking about it. But those longer term type situations, that fun eventually wears off. That, hey, I get to use my prepping stuff, and probably wears off after a few days. And then you're like, all right, I'm sick of this crap. But it is those types of things. So let me get back to this article here. So enough on the electricity here. Let's talk about this next one that they've got. And this one is pretty interesting as well, because I think a lot of us, we tend to be pretty good about this, but at the same time, I think we probably overestimate. I'm pretty sure I do. But it is overestimating what you have for stored food, figuring that you have enough. Maybe you do have enough. However, thinking that you have enough could be a big prepper mistake. Believing that you have plenty of food stored for a very long SHTF situation could be wrong. In one more paragraph here, it says, fact is, each person will require about 750,000 calories of food to survive 1 year. That's right, about 750,000 calories per person at a minimum. That is a lot of food. And it is one of those things when you're thinking about your food storage, and we tend to do this too, just sort of as we're sitting on the couch, if I haven't done inventory in a little bit, it's like, how long do you think we could last? And I bet you we sort of overestimate the amount that this is, that we have, that we're going to be able to I guess, quote unquote, survive for, if given nothing else happens in that time frame, and it's just basically sort of a lockdown pandemic type thing where you're locked in your house for a year straight. No outside, no marauders coming to steal your crap, no government officials coming to steal your crap or anything like that. I think we tend to overestimate exactly how much we all actually have. Tony had a comment about the propane tanks that I just asked a minute ago. A large propane tank for barbecue is best and can reload 1 pound tanks. That's what they are. I was thinking they were 20 pounds. I don't know why I was thinking that. 1 pound tanks. That's interesting. But yeah, they're easy to store. Now, granted, in an apartment, probably not. What are you going to do if you live in an apartment? You can't have a propane grill on your balcony or something like that. So that's not going to work. But you got to figure out different alternatives. By the way, on that, and then I'll get back over to this article. I know I'm bouncing around a lot here tonight, but on that, I am going to do some prepper cooking things, and it'll give you some ideas about different ways when the grid is down. I've got a small little camp stove that I'm going to use. I've got a propane grill that I'm going to use, the smaller bottles of propane, a Dutch oven, the back barbecue, everything except for something that would be powered by electric devices, the stove, or even gas devices. You know, our gas is hooked up to the natural gas line, which is probably going to be illegal pretty soon, and I'm going to have to pay $1 million freaking dollars to get that taken out, but that's another story. But I am going to be doing those types of videos and probably some things over at the bug out location for that as well. So again, or we'll go back to this article right here. It says here, it's easy to stash several weeks of food or even a month or two with little or no effort. However, if you're looking at 6 months or a year, or even more, for each person in the castle, it is a lot of food. Especially, I keep saying especially lately. I don't know why that is. It's pounded into my brain for some reason, a bad habit. But especially if you're talking about a family situation, like here with me and Lisa, it's not like I've got to load up the whole basement with all sorts of food, or some of these. A lot of these people you see on doomsday preppers and stuff that just have mountains of food make me a little bit jealous. I don't have a small amount by any means, but I'm not up to that level. But it does get tough when the more people that are in your family and the more people you're trying to prepare for. When you talk about a year, that's just a lot of food. And that's where I think anyway, and it's really up to everyone, how you do your own food storage plan. But that's where I like the long-term food storage stuff, whether you're talking about the legacy food storage, whether you're talking about Augustin Farms, the number 10 cans, the DIY methods that you can do as far as beans and rice and things like that. Those are a great way to sort of build up that food storage, and it doesn't take a whole lot of space. Now, it's not going to be that fancy meal that we're used to having these days, but it is going to be food on the table. Maybe it's going to give you the opportunity or the ability to make bread, or maybe have some sort of macaroni for the 10th night in a row, something like that. And if you've got enough pasta sauce stored and different spices and ingredients, and you know how to put those together and make a meal, maybe you can sort of mix those things up. So Brandon said in the chat here, I wonder how much solar it would take to run my smoker. Yeah, I've never even gone down that rabbit hole. That's some calculations. I wouldn't even know what an electric smoker. I wouldn't even know what that how many watts that would be, or I don't even know. Tiger said here that I've read many places saying 750 pounds of food for one person per year. Yeah, that and you just think about that. That is a whole lot of food to be stored. And now, granted, it really depends on what the food is. Like 750 pounds of pasta noodles or macaroni noodles. That's that'd probably take up your whole basement, right? But 750 pounds of flour, not taking up as much room. So it really depends, but that's probably a pretty good rule of thumb. I mean, think about it in those terms, and then you sort of don't overestimate your ability and what you actually have. Makes you think about things a little bit more realistically about how long you could withstand something. Now, while I'm talking about all this, the longer term type situations are so much more less likely than the shorter term ones. I'm by no means, for people that are just getting into this and they've only got a couple months worth of food storage and things, I'm by no means saying that you've got to have a year's worth of food storage at minimum. I'm not saying you need 750 pounds of food stored. I'm saying that should be a goal if it's something that's possible for you. But these longer term type disaster situations, they're far less likely. Although I'm not so sure about that these days with our corrupt government and all the things going on around the world, it's becoming more and more likely as the days go on. But the smaller ones that get figured out eventually, whether you're talking a couple weeks or maybe even a couple months, those are far more likely. And those natural disasters, the personal doomsdays, those are far more likely than these longer scale ones. But even thinking about personal doomsdays, job loss, something like that, where the family has to figure out things while you're looking for another job, or the husband or wife, somebody lost their job. That could be a number of months as well, where you need to depend on that food storage, it's not going to really matter so much as far as the water storage and maybe not the electricity, as long as you've got the money to pay the electricity. But that food, it's going to, I talked about this a couple weeks ago, where you have that food storage, you're able to sort of get through those personal type doomsdays. And this is a story I've heard time and time again from preppers about how thank God they've had this. It's not any sort of disaster situation, but thank God they were preppers and they had the foresight to think about this stuff, because you can save some money when money is really tight, because you don't have to go out to the grocery store. You've got that stuff right there. You've got those stockpiles to dip into. But even the personal doomsdays, as far as food storage is concerned, can last, a couple months, a few months. I mean, it's sometimes even longer. I mean, who knows? So Charlie said I would last about 1 month, but looking into longer term survival now. Yeah, and I think that's part of the preparedness journey, right? None of us have got it figured out. And that's why I was talking about with the bug out location, it's going to be a never ending additions to that, because just like that in preparedness, we never have it figured out. We're never done learning. There's always something we can hone our skills at. There's always something we need to practice at. There's always something with it that we can get a little bit better at. And situations change, the environment around us changes as well. So we need to sort of pivot and plan, and all of our plans change. So it's something that is just ongoing that's why I always say prepping has got to be a lifestyle. It can't be some sort of fad. It can't be some sort of hobby. I guess if you want it to be, then you know what, then that's fine. But when the chips are actually on the table, good luck, I suppose. Because it's when the game gets real, that little hobby stuff might help you out here and there. But as far as the big picture, you're not going to be covered for that. Now, with that said, there is an aspect of preparedness that I think is sort of hobby-ish, I suppose, because all of us have our strengths, right? All of us have that one thing or a couple things that we're really good at that we like to do. So it is sort of a hobby. With me, it's learning about different solar and alternative energy things. With me, it's a little bit about the gardening, although I hate the weeds and all that crap. So it is sort of that hobby that lends itself to preparedness. But there's so much more to preparedness that if you're treating it just like a hobby, hey, I'm a prepper because I was in the military, or I'm a prepper because I like to do this solar stuff. I've got this or that. I'm a prepper because I'm, like a nurse or something like that. There's a whole lot more that goes into all of this stuff rather than just those little things. So I think those are important. At any rate, I kind of went on a tangent on that and went off of food stores there a little bit, but very good points. And I think it is important that we pay attention to that. But I think this is the last one here. And this one is really important as well. This is not putting enough emphasis on personal and home security to get through the very, very long-term SHTF events. I'll read a couple paragraphs here. While an uncomfortable subject for some, there will likely be significant security risks during periods of SHTF collapse. Although no one will be immune or free from this, your location will greatly impact these risks. There's lots to consider and lots to do for your personal security and home security if you want to be in the higher level of preparedness for SHTF type situations. And this is one of those that I guess we can only do what we can do, but it is something that we really do need to pay attention to, and we really do sort of need to be working on a daily basis and really think about what, it's one of those that's pretty tough because there's a lot of things that you can do that are just fundamental things for protecting your home, protecting your property. If marauders are coming to your house, I mean, there's a lot of scenarios where those things that we can think about those things, but there are a lot of unknowns out there as well that we don't really tend to give a lot much thought to, or maybe a couple different situations combined into one situation that we need to think about. So it is one of those that, we tend to sort of, hey, I can get through this if this happens. I can get through this if that happens. I've got this for the short-term stuff, but things like we talked about a second Civil War a few weeks ago. I think it was a few weeks ago now. We talked about that. If something were to go on a couple years, a year and a half or so, something like that is sort of long-term like that, maybe there's still electricity. Maybe there's still some semblance of society, but you never know from one day to the next what's going to be at your front door. And I think that goes for a lot of SHTF type situations, not just that one. So we need to think about those. What types of things can I do? Now, this all goes to community as well. And I'm not sure if they have community in this article, but this is the end of the article. But this goes into community as well, because community is going to help you with your security. Because I know we talk about this all the time as preppers, but I know there's the lone prepper mentality, and I am sort of kind of a recluse type person, but at the same time, if you're trying to go it alone with just you, your kids and your wife or whatever, husband or wife, it is going to be one of those things where you're going to be an easy target. So I think we will, especially the longer things go on. I got to stop saying especially the longer things go on, the more likely those situations are, the more, you've got the die-off that everyone talks about, right? So 90% of those people are gone. Everything's sort of been weeded out and thinned out, and you are going to, be one of the only things left. So if you were that person that is the house on the hill, just you and your family planting a garden, compared to a community or maybe a neighborhood that's sort of barricaded off and it's got sentries out front and, a little bit harder target to go to, you're going to be the target that they go to rather than that other one first anyway. And then, when there's nothing left, maybe that's when the big battle takes place for control of the prepper territory or whatever. But community is one of those things that goes hand in hand with security. So one thing I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on as well too, is and I have this question, I ask myself this all the time, because we talk about in preparedness, how the doom porn and the fear porn and all those things, and people just sort of ramping up your emotions and trying to get you overhyped for certain things. And I try to be really cognizant of that. But at the same time, I don't know if it's just that prepper part of me that makes me wonder if I don't want to overreact because I don't want to be one of those guys, especially here online, that goes into this and says, oh, you better prepare now or you're going to die. I don't want to be the Alex Jones type guy or some of these YouTubers out here. It's going to be too late if you don't get this. It's going to be too late if you don't do that. It's going to happen tomorrow. You better get ready. Or if you're not preparing now, if you're not prepared now, it's already too late. So don't even bother me. But I'm sorry, I was reading Tiger's comment here and I got sidetracked right here. Let me go ahead and just throw this up while I'm here, and then I will go back into that. 2 things pissed me off. I ran out of milk and eggs. Side note, canned tomatoes, green beans, canned pineapple don't last. Glass lasts for years. Interesting, yeah. I don't do a whole lot of canned foods anymore. I mean, we do some stuff, the things that we eat, but we don't eat a lot of canned foods. So it's one of those things that just doesn't get stored as much as we used to. Now, different kinds of beans, tomato sauces, things like that we'll use as ingredients in meals. We do a lot of that, but even the fruits, which I like, but I just never think about it. And they sit on the shelf and I'm like, oh man, I could have eaten this, a year ago, but I didn't even think about it. So yeah, definitely store what you eat what you store, and don't let it get bad. But on this, maintaining your sort of preparedness level and overreacting or underreacting, I'm always concerned. Light Raider said here, fear porn is usually followed by a sales pitch. Yeah. It is. And whether it's a sales pitch like, hey, go buy my crap, or whether it's, a newscast or whatever, stay tuned, the little teasers at the end, you wouldn't believe what happened in New York this week or whatever. And then they go to a commercial. That's the sales pitch is basically stick around and watch these commercials. But yeah, it always is. But there's times when, back to what I was originally talking about here, there's times when I don't want to be that guy that is just totally overreacting, because it doesn't do you any good to overreact in preparedness and get all bent out of shape about something and sort of ramp up go out and buy thousands of rounds of ammunition and then all of a sudden nothing happens, or go out and buy a whole bunch of food and then all of a sudden you can't pay your electricity bill. I don't want to be that guy that is overreacting and then do things because I'm not thinking rationally about things. But at the same time, my prepper brain kicks in and says, you don't want to be that guy that underreacts either. You don't want to be that guy that says, you don't want to be the guy that says the sky is falling, but at the same time, when the sky does start falling, you don't want to be the guy getting pelted in the head. And that's what preparedness is all about. So there is that catch-22 of things. Prepping inherently is going to have those sort of fear pornish type things incorporated with it. That's just what it is. That's just what we talk about all the time. It's what we have to, be ready for and be vigilant about. But at the same time, falling trap, and I see so many people doing it. I even, not a lot of preppers, but there are some preppers, especially in the very beginning when some people get into preparedness. That's when they sort of fall into that kind of trap, because for one reason or another, they got into preparedness. Something bad probably happened one reason or another and got them looking into preparedness, whether that was something minor or something major, or maybe they just stumbled upon it. Or you get on one of these, crazy websites. Back, I think a lot of you probably remember, back 10, 15 years ago, there used to be these sales pitches, these websites with really long sales pages with videos that said, make sure and turn the volume up. And they basically tried to scare the crap out of you for 5 minutes in order for you to buy their little book that was $29.99 or whatever the cost was. And the book was some of the most basic preparedness information, the stuff that you get readily available all over the internet. But they hooked you because they scared the crap out of you, and they got that urgency going, and they got you, hey, you're only going to get this deal right now, so don't click away, those types of things. So that doesn't happen like that much anymore, because Google and all the search engines have just gotten better about it. But it does happen more subtly. in videos, in art, I mean, just on newscasts, on everything that you see around the internet. So it's the same principle. It's just done, that whole sales pitch thing is done a little bit differently. But we do need to sort of pay attention to the things that are important, to the things that could be possible, but at the same time, and I think that's where the onus is on us to dig deeper into something and not go, hey, I heard Glenn Beck say this, or hey, I heard this guy say that, or this guy say this. It's up to us to make sure and dig a little bit deeper and find out if that is as immediate as we think it is, or if it's something that, you know what, maybe I'll put that on the checkboard and I'll make sure I don't just completely space it out. But it's something that, I don't need to really put my full attention to at this point. But at the same time, like I said, there's always that part of me that sort of that Murphy's Law type thing that makes me think, man, am I not giving this the credit it deserves? Am I just sort of blowing this off like what does Glenn Tate call them, prepping 2.0? He calls them normies, right? Am I just blowing this off like a normal person would, their head in the sand and all that? Or is it something that really, I am sort of being rational about it? And I think that's where we sort of have to just kind of figure those things out as preppers. I think it's important for us to err on the side of caution when it comes to all this stuff and really do our due diligence and make sure we do take it seriously until we don't have to, basically. Because we just never know. With all this stuff going on with the government, with all this stuff going on around the World Economic Forum, the way society is changing, the way everything we do these days is being tracked, the way 1984, the fiction book is actually coming to fruition recently and at a faster pace than ever. I just read something. Let me see if I've got this here. And then I'm probably... let me see. I've got on my Facebook feed, I'll just scroll through all this stuff and see if I can find it. New York. Oh, yeah, here it is right here. New York, to track residents' food purchases and place caps on meat served by public institutions. That is right there, the World Economic Forum game plan, all of these things that we sort of worry about. And a lot of people say, oh, that crap's never going to happen. You guys are just overreacting. The whole conspiracy theorist, right? The thing, right? You're just being a conspiracy theorist. Well, these days, a conspiracy theory has got about a 2-week shelf life before it becomes fact. So now New York, I wouldn't expect it to happen anyplace else. Maybe California, but New York is sort of the proving grounds for all of these types of things. California as well. Some of the big cities in California, some of the proving grounds for some of these things. But you see things like that. And this actually, the readers added context to this. New York City is only reducing red meat consumption by public institutions like hospitals. And the policy on reduction of red meat consumption does not apply to the private sector like restaurants or households. So, that's fantastic right now. But this is step one. We're not trying to take your guns away, right? I mean, that's what I hear all the time. That's what I hear when I see all this stuff. It's not what they're doing. Twitter, I'm not going to go down this can of worms either right now, but Twitter taken over by a chick that has ties to the World Economic Forum and things like that. I might go through that next week, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But there are just things that we need to pay attention to. And it may not be that the digital currency, the CBDB or anything like that is coming out right now, but we know it's coming eventually. So thinking about things like that right now and thinking about what we're going to do, we don't know if the economy is going to completely tank on us, but right now the odds seem pretty good that that's what's going to happen. We don't know how bad it's going to get if it does. We don't know if it's going to be depression level. We don't know if I kind of think with the way they josh with numbers and things like that, and the way they've got everything band-aided together, if things were exactly the same as they were during the Great Depression, I have a feeling that it would be sort of the same type of situation now. But they've gerrymandered things so much these days that you just never know. The inflation inflation's only this much, but if they calculated inflation like they calculated it 20 years ago, it'd have been double what it is now. So you just never know. But and anyway, my whole point with this is we just need to be vigilant about this stuff and do pay attention to it. And it is, there is sort of that entertainment factor, I suppose. We do like to talk about these different things. We do like to watch videos because you can gather some important facts about different things and different research points where you can go out and look into them. So we do, I think it's just human nature, dirty laundry, right? Humans just love that sort of interesting, crazy. The good news doesn't really sell, right? The good news doesn't get ratings that much. But I think as preppers, we need to sort of, that switch needs to turn on in our head, and we need to ask ourselves, hey man, am I overreacting to this? But like I said, at the same time, you don't want to be underreacting about something as well. So just a tough situation that I grapple with all the time, because I will, especially when it comes to like government stuff, I will get heated. Usually anytime Joe Biden says a word, or Anthony Blinken, or all these yahoos up there that are just completely full of crap and lying about everything, the FBI, I will get super heated about something right off the bat. And then I have to calm myself down a little bit and sort of think rationally about it, and figure out, and usually I'm right when it comes to the FBI and all that crap, but usually I'm right, but I do need to sort of relax sometimes. And I think that's what we need to do as preppers. And that goes for all the sales pitches and everything like Charlie was talking about earlier. We need to, instead of that impulse buying thing, this goes for everything, not just preparedness stuff, but when you want to buy this cool survival knife or this backpack or this bug out bag or whatever, that impulse right away, your mind, and you're telling yourself basically, oh yeah, I got to have this. You're justifying it. So when things happen that normalcy bias, when things happen in the government, when we're like, I told you so, I knew that was happening, we tend to buy into it. But if we let ourselves relax a little bit, like when we're buying that bug out bag or something, let yourself relax a little bit, step away from the computer, step away from the buy it now button, and give yourself a little bit to think about that. Come back with a rational head. I think that it serves us well to at least, go that route. And once we've thought about it and we make a decision that we're okay with, and it's not an emotional decision, I think that's the route we need to take. And that goes for all the things that we talk about in preparedness. We know the digital currency is coming. We know the World Economic Forum wants to basically run the world. We know all of these different organizations are basically influencing the government, and not in a good way whatsoever. But we need to think about it rationally, and what can we do to prepare ourselves better for that, rather than just getting pissed off about certain things. Tiger said here, Kroger food is now double and triple the price they were. News article I read today, buying up all the Albertsons. Yeah. Lisa was, I forget where she was today. She was out buying, she went and bought paint. She's doing some horse jumps again, and she just went out and bought paint. Paint has doubled in price. I mean, everything has. It's just insane. And you hear the government and all these people talking about, hey, it's not that bad. It's going to get better, But no, man, it is. The numbers that they spew out are completely different than the numbers that I'm feeling in my pocketbook, the numbers that my bank account is feeling, the numbers I feel when I go to the grocery store and I see that dog food and meat hasn't gone up as much as I thought it was going to, but it's still a lot higher than it should be, basically. But everything has gone up these days, and it's just, and like I talked about last week or a couple of weeks ago too, this is how they do it too. They push everything, or everything goes up to this level right here, where it's just this pain point, and it feels like you just can't take it anymore. And then when it comes down a little bit, everything's, you feel a little bit like you got a little bit of breathing room, and everything's getting better. But just a little while ago, it was all the way down here. So we're used to this now, but whereas this is actually normal, but we're used to this now. So, Tiger, one more comment, and then I am going to get out of here, everyone. If anybody else has got any comments or anything, I can answer a couple more before I get out of here. But having no money keeps me from buying much of anything. I save money for gas when I can. Yeah. And I think that's a mindset that we all have to have as well, because I by no means have a whole lot of money. We do okay, but I wish I had more, because I'll tell you what, I'd have my well pump figured out right now. I have a lot of things figured out right now if I had more money. But the fact that I grew up being dirt poor, with a single mom working her butt off just to get us 3 kids through school and alive and all that stuff. I think I learned a lot from that, being frugal and being that person that doesn't just go out and blow money. Now, I do have my moments where it's just kind of like I can rationalize buying something, even if it's something like I got to get this because I'm going to do a video and do a review on it, something like that. A lot of times I can rationalize a lot of things, but I tend to be pretty well, and I think that's what we all need to try to do is tend to sort of cut back, regardless. I hate it when they say that you need to tighten your belt and we need to we just need to be happy with less. I hate it when they say that crap because it's condescending. But the reality is, on a personal level, we do sort of need to, like it or not, we sort of need to be that way. I just don't want to hear that crap from them. That's all. I don't want to hear that crap from somebody that's eating 40, Jenny's ice cream, or I don't even know how much that crap costs, or flying on their private jet out to some island to talk to a bunch of other rich people. I don't need to hear that crap from them. So at any rate, everyone, I appreciate you all joining in tonight. I am going to get out of here today. Like I said, a lot of cool things happening with the bug out location. I'm going to put this group together, over at, let me see here. The Survivalist Prepper at the bug out location. It's on Mighty Networks, and it's a group that it's going to have a free tier, and I'm also going to have a $2 tier, and then I'm going to bring in all the bug out location members. That was my goal from the get-go with locals, but they didn't let me, so locals sucks. But I am going to bring in all the bug out location members, but it's going to be a fun group. It's going to be sort of like Facebook, but without all the BS and without all the nonsense and without all the noise and the trolls and all of that. That's the main reason I made this $2 tier, is to get rid of those people that just join and then just want to talk a bunch of crap. I want to get people in there that actually do care about preparedness and have fun at the same time, but are not there just to talk crap to everyone else. So it is going to be a damn good group. I'm going to work my butt off and make sure it is really cool. But it does work just like Facebook. You can download the Mighty Networks app, and then if this is the only group that you're in, this is the page. It's almost like a Survivalist Prepper app. This will be the page that you see when you first open it up. I don't have my phone anywhere near me, or I'd show you, but it's going to be a really cool group. There are a couple other prepping groups on Mighty Networks as well. I haven't checked them out yet, so I don't know if they're any good, but I have a feeling it's a whole lot better than locals. I'll just put it that way. Unless you're like Dave Rubin or, those guys that just got massive audience, Steven Crowder, things like that. It just doesn't work. I couldn't even get to 50 subscribers over there, supporters, whatever they call it, to be able to let the bug out location members in. So I just decided I would pay for it myself. This is a little bit expensive, but like I said in the beginning, if this works out and it is active, and it's not even really about the money, but if it is active and we have people in there learning things from each other, then I'll keep it rolling. At that point. But this is basically a year-long test run. We're going to give it a year, see how it works. I just signed up for a year of it. So we're going to give it a year, see how it works, and then go from there. But once I get that all up and running, hopefully in the next few days, I'll have it good enough to start letting people in. By no means will it be completely done, but it'll be good enough to get everybody in there and start testing it out. But the bug out location, that's going to take a little bit longer, but that's something I really, really want to make fantastic. And like I said, I'm building that from the ground up. starting over from complete scratch. There might be a couple videos that I have that I transfer over, but for the most part, we're going to start from scratch because it's just so hard to go through. It's sort of like, I'll leave you on this. It's sort of like cleaning your room. It's a lot easier to just take everything out of the room and then put it back together, or cleaning your kitchen, cleaning your basement, whatever, than to try to figure out where everything goes. For me anyway, I just need a clean slate because it's really hard to figure out where everything goes when everything's all in the middle, and it's like 7, 8 years old and everything's just kind of got all over the place. So it will, it'll be pretty damn cool. But at any rate, I am done here today. I'm going to go get something to eat, everyone. I appreciate you all joining in. If you do have any questions about this or anything that I'm doing, email me at dale@survivalistprepper.net. Maybe leave a comment under the video, whatever you want to do. Just get a hold of me. Ask me whatever questions you have about this, about the bug out location, about anything. Long-term food storage, if you're interested in getting something like that, I've got the SHTF shop where I do sell that stuff. We can chat a little bit, and I can let you know, how much you might want, what sort of prices you would get. Because if you talk to me, you're going to get better prices than the retail prices that are on the website. I just say it that way. But very cool, everyone. I appreciate you joining in today. I do have my head buried in all this stuff. I am going to try to do some more videos and live streams throughout the week. But honestly, I'm a one-man band, so there's a whole lot I'm doing. But I do want to get this group up and running and get everything going and all of that stuff. So I appreciate y'all joining in. Tiger, 100% Dale, Light Raider, great show. Thank you all for joining in. Into the Wilderness, I just saw you poke your head in here. Why do I not get live notifications for the events? Is that say event? My old eyes can't see. I need to start wearing glasses here. I don't know if that says ever or event. I can't tell. YouTube sucks with that. I forgot to send out the email. If you aren't on the email list, you can go to survivalistprepper.net, and in the sidebar, and I think there's even a pop-up. It's the prepping crash course over at the bug out location. Just get on that list. You'll get, if you don't want to take the prepping crash course, you don't have to, but at least you'll be on the list. Or even at the bottom of any article, you can get on the list just to get notified when I go live. I actually forgot to put that out today, but usually I'll put a video out. With this group, I'm going to be putting notifications in the group as well. So you can check the group, see how that's going, and see if there's when the next upcoming live stream is and all that. So, but at any rate, for the third time, I am actually going to get out of here this time tonight, guys, everyone.